I've spoken about this before, but once you're no longer buying to fill holes, then all of a sudden it becomes difficult to shop with intentionality. I found myself just buying new pieces just because I liked them or just because I thought they were cool. There wasn't really as much thought going into like how those things were going to interact with my wardrobe and my lifestyle. These are not necessarily things that I regret purchasing, but they are things that really didn't make sense for me to purchase over time. And you know how these things can be very, very expensive, especially on the high end, like we're going to talk about with one specific one. It would probably have been better if I would not have made these mistakes. So hopefully you guys are into the subject matter of this video. Comment down below if you have any like regretful purchases or any purchase that you made that were just like you look back and you're thinking like, oh my God, that was so stupid. Because trust me, we've all been there. Now, this is just to reiterate, there is no shame in making a bad purchase, in making a bad or dumb or otherwise not useful purchase in your wardrobe. And one of the reasons I think that it's really not the end of the world is that you can recoup some of the money. Now, this is KW Shops, my YouTube channel, where we do not believe that handbags are reliable financial investments. But I do think that a handbag collection, and I hope I'm not just preaching to the choir, is a collecting habit or a spending habit is not the worst type of spending habit one could have. Now, some people prefer to spend their money in other ways. People love to go out to dinners and go traveling and things like that. Now, for example, me, I'm not in a position where like I can just off to like some country for a week because I have multiple jobs. Even if I did want to allocate my money in that way, that's not something really realistic in my lifestyle at this time. Money spent on experiences is sunken money. And now, yes, of course, you have the experience, you have the memories, but there's no way that I can like put that memory in a jar necessarily and like, you know, recoup any of the money for it. Whereas this was something dumb that I bought for a little serotonin boost, and I bought it for $6.50 and I'm selling it for almost the same amount of money that I bought it for. Okay, so the main problem that I think that I had in the past couple of years was that I got to a place where I was very happy with my wardrobe and collection, and I was no longer building a collection based on new items that were missing necessarily in that collection. You know, once you have a couple of options of like tote bags, couple of options of like a work bag, couple of options of like day-to-day bags, couple of options for evening bags, all of a sudden you're at like maybe, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 15 bags. And I think that most of us don't really need to have more than 10 or 15 bags in our collection. Now, to some of you watching, that may sound like so many. Once you do hit that point, and you're still into this and you're still purveying this, and maybe you work in the industry, you do still come across things that you just want to have and you want to own, and you end up just shopping without as much of a purpose. And that was a difficulty that I felt like I had. I feel like there is now a lot of redundancy, but on the other hand, that redundancy means that I have more options. It's a double-edged sword. You could really do with this mentality and this advice what makes sense in your wardrobe and lifestyle. But it is just something that I have been grappling with, and I've noticed that in the change in my shopping patterns over the past couple of years. So the first way to know that something is not right for you and should not be added to your wardrobe, a certain level at a certain point, especially with how expensive things have become over the past couple of years, assessing your budget and thinking about really what makes sense with your finances and in your lifestyle to put away towards such a splurge. Now the next one, and this is in my opinion almost as important as the budget one, is if it's not functional within your lifestyle, you'll always end up choosing something else, and ultimately the item sitting on your shelf could be money sitting in your bank account. It could go to another bag that is going to work for you. It could go to a trip. It could just go towards your financial goals. The next thing we're going to talk about as well is things that I'm going to use the word overhyped, but I think that in the luxury space, a lot of bags and certain brands get exalted above like a lot of the others. And I think that that is kind of like a wrong way to look at this industry and look at like consuming these products. I've said it before that I think that it would be better, I think it is much better and more sustainable for us as consumers to each have our own pedestal, for us each to have our own dream bag, dream brand, etc. Or just really look at the individual products and their usefulness for our lifestyle more so than like meeting other people's expectations and standards. This can go for classic styles like the Chanel Classic Flap, which we'll be talking about in a second, or whichever bag is the latest one on the influencer push. And the last thing is things that you buy because you're being impulsive, because you're bored, or because you just think it's cool. These are things obviously that even I have fallen victim to, and we're going to talk about some of the examples in my own collection that have fallen under these categories, and let me know if you have your own. So now, I already previewed it. This is the Chanel hologram bag. I bought this one in 2021, and before I get too upset with myself, we do have to like give grace for the fact that this was in the like middle of the throes of the, you know, not so great parts of the you-know-what that, you know, shifted our lives for a couple of years. And I did purchase it a little bit out of boredom. So this maybe for me served as a little serotonin boost for that moment, when serotonin boosts at that time were a little bit scarce. Also crucially important is that this was what felt like an attainable price point for me. It wasn't like deal breaking as so many Chanel bags can be today. I paid about $650 for this one, which I know is stupid for something that I had no intention of actually using in my practical life. So I wasn't really thinking about like how this was going to integrate in my lifestyle, because I really didn't have much of a lifestyle at that point. Maybe one day, because I am certifiably insane, I may buy this again. I may want this sitting back on the shelf. They also make it in a purple color, which I think is like maybe a little bit better for myself. And considering I did buy it really just as a piece for my collection, maybe that made sense for 2021 when I purchased this. But now 2 years later, and I'm thinking about like, you know, maybe some changes for the future, some financial goals that I now have. Now, having a cool collection isn't necessarily as high on my list of priorities as it was when I purchased this. Oh wait, and that's okay. Instead of shaming myself for making such a dumb purchase, just do know that over time, your priorities and your responsibilities are going to change, and this is a key example of that. So I'm not gonna harp on this point for too long, because I think one thing that you will realize, one thing you'll realize about the bags I'm going to be featuring on this list is that most of them are small bags. I've discovered over the course of my buying and shopping that I don't like small bags. For whatever reason, I like to be able to carry anything that I could possibly fathom needing on a regular day. I want to be able to carry my usual crop of things and be able to switch in and out of it relatively seamlessly. And I feel like it's just too much friction for me to actually use them in my day-to-day life. Also bear in mind, I'm not really going a whole lot of places that would require a bag like this. Like, this is not the bag I'm taking with me to the grocery store, for example. It's not the bag I'm taking with me to work. This is not the bag that I'm taking when I go get my car washed. You guys know me, I love a big earring. I have like many pairs of bamboo earrings. Earrings and bamboo earrings are like one of my signature things that I've been wearing since I was like a little kid and first coming into my own style. So I thought it was so super cool that this bamboo detail and feature was a part of this bag. But I have to face facts and reality that as much as I love this bag, as much as I think it's cool, as much as I, you know, would like to carry it and have it be a part of my life. And by the way, that's also setting aside the quality of this bag. Like, the craftsmanship on it is absolutely beautiful. Couldn't recommend it enough. It's just too damn small for me. Where am I going? So this was a purchase I made because I like the style and aesthetic, and now I am reevaluating how much different styles and aesthetics, and how much me just liking and appreciating the style of bag means that I have to actually own it. I can admire things from afar, and maybe this is one that is just meant for me to admire from afar. I would love to use this bag, and if Brandon Blackwood would create styles that were like a little bit bigger, then maybe this would be something that I could justify. One thing I totally know about myself is that I love a good vintage Gucci bag. The next bag I'm going to talk about is the one right here behind me. This is one that I don't know that you guys have seen on this channel, but this is a vintage Gucci bag from the 80s. Now it has lizard skin here on top. It's all black suede on the bottom. This is the back piece. There's a pocket in back, which is one thing, if you guys watch my channel a lot, you know I am so adamant about back pockets on flap bags. The clasp is really unique and different. You pull the clasp down and then it just opens here like that. But this is one that I just found one day while perusing eBay, and that's one thing that I need to talk about. So one thing that I am making a concerted effort in doing is to not necessarily scroll through the shops in quite the same way as I used to when I'm bored. Now when I'm bored, I try to find other things that maybe are more productive to do, and scrolling through the vintage eBay saved search that I've had for like 5 years is maybe something I'm cutting back on a little bit. And the last part, which is why this counts as a dumb purchase as opposed to some of my other ones that I'm not necessarily counting in quite the same way, is that I saw the price on this, looked at the pictures, and kind of just hit buy it now, add to cart, etc. I didn't really read the description, and this is something that I need to warn you guys about. As much information as provided on online listings, read it all. Read their terms of service, read the color that they list it as, look closely at the photos, and you know what, honestly, I am going to recommend requesting more information as needed. This one, I'm going to try to find the photos of this bag from eBay where I purchased this, and you'll see that the colors are not the same as what you're seeing here. I thought this was going to be like a hunter green color, and when it arrived and it was black, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't green. Yeah, because the description said it was black. And this is something you have to be very careful about, especially on listings from people who are not necessarily like resellers functioning as businesses. Me working in my capacity in the resale area, like I do a level of product photography, and I take a lot of time to color correct all of the online photos and listings. So sometimes, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you guys this on video, but sometimes you'll take a photo with your phone and it'll completely change and distort the color. For whatever reason, this is especially true with colors in the green family. Colors in the green family, sometimes it can be bad with like black and really dark things, but getting that color correction right is something that you're more likely to get from higher tier of resellers, people who operate as a business. So unless you're really familiar with the item, with the color of the item that you're shopping for, you may want to try to request more photos, or just be weary that something like this could happen. And of course, read the description, because if I would have just read that it was black, maybe I wouldn't have been as excited about it. So this example here is one that I sold many moons ago, and I'm only gonna halfway give myself shit for it, because some lessons can only be learned on your own 2 feet, I guess. This is the Balenciaga part-time bag. I have to say that of all of the bags, like I really despised using this bag, and it's like in the classic iteration. I've said before that I really like structured bags. I love a top handle. I love something that is large and going to hold all of my things. That had most of those features, except the structure was absolutely not there. Using this bag was like carrying like a burlap sack. What was very annoying to me with this bag was that when you would put your stuff in it but leave the bag open and set it down, the bag would not be able to support the weight of its own self. And very often I would find that it drove me absolutely insane. The reason why I purchased this bag was because, you know, in that moment at that time, this was probably around 2015 or 2016. This was a bag that was just thought of as such a classic. Oh, the Balenciaga City, the Balenciaga City, the Balenciaga City is such a classic. Everyone needs a Balenciaga City bag. And the thing I want you guys to avoid when making your purchases in the future is people like me here on the social channels saying that everyone needs to have X. No matter what, a bag is not going to be suitable for every type of person and every type of lifestyle. This is the bag that taught me how much I love structure. I'm not gonna give myself too much flack for making this purchase as early in my, collecting stage as I did, but it is worth mentioning that not every bag is gonna be for every person. The guides and the sources don't take into account a broad swath of people's needs. I did my whole roast or takedown of the Chanel Classic Flap that I will leave linked down below because I think it is very important that you guys watch this video to see the not so great side of some bags that are just so universally exalted. So this is my very unpopular opinion, but I think the Chanel Classic Flap is the most overhyped bag of all time. The part that I want to talk about here the most is outside of it not being right for my lifestyle and my needs is that bag was so far out of my budget. I could afford it comfortably. That wasn't really the issue. It wasn't taking any money away from my groceries or my bills. But when I think about how much money realistically it makes sense for me to sink into one item in my wardrobe and my collection at this time in my life, given what my daily activities are, it really made absolutely no sense. Now, of course, this was almost 2 years ago, and the Chanel Classic Flap is now valued much, much higher. Even back then, the $5,000 or so that it cost, made absolutely no sense for this version of my life. It will probably be a long time, if ever, that I'm sinking necessarily that much money into one purchase. Unless something great happens, in which case we reassess. So these two are on my chopping block, so to speak, that are going to find homes elsewhere with people who are going to be able to appreciate and love and hopefully use to the extent that both of these beautiful bags deserve. Because I like to be honest with you guys, the impetus of this purging is because I found something that made a lot more sense. Ta-da! So I've seen this bag in person before and I absolutely became obsessed with it. Now this is not one that I was intending to purchase in the moment, but I did tell myself when I saw it that that's one that I need to put on my list. And I just happened upon one over on Fashion File one day at a price that was amazing. But I decided that I would rather have this than the two that I just showed you. This is something that makes more sense for me. This is something that actually has a space and capacity and is a color that fits in my wardrobe. It's metallic, it has a little bit of distressing. It's not gonna be so fussy. And of course, the price point on this is not astronomical like many Chanel evening style bags roughly this size can be. This one is going to be easier for me to use. It has a whole zip part right here for me to hold even more things. There's a small back pocket that, maybe I might put a card holder in, but seeing this and seeing how much more sense something like this made, current version of my life, made these and the money that was sunk into them that I could put to a better use. So I just did a giant purge and it feels great to see that money coming in. I know that I was on a no buy of bags for, what did I say? I believe that was January, February, the foreseeable future. Well, I found something and I'm offsetting the cost of this by getting rid of things that are not serving me in my wardrobe currently. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely comment below what some of your dumbest or most unjustifiable purchases that you've made in your collection are. Let me know what you think about my bag. I'll have more details on it in the links down below. I will see you guys soon in my next one.